Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the second in our Regia Marine Seismic Survey webinar series. My name is Matthew Smith. I am undertaking the environmental planning for the Regia Marine Seismic Survey on behalf of CGG. The webinar today, we're going to be covering the activities in the last month or so and talking to you a little bit about what's going to come in April and May. The title of the webinar today is about context, scope and criteria, and this is the section of our environmental planning process that we're currently going through, where we're gathering context from as many different sources as possible. We've started engaging with people to figure out what people's interests in the area are. We're scoping up our survey, we're scoping up our environmental assessments, and we're setting our criteria for how we make decisions about environmental management. And I'll talk to you about these all today. Just as a reminder for those of you that are new to the webinar series, the Regia Marine Seismic Survey is the name of a seismic survey proposed in the Otway region. You can see it on the map in the slide here. Seismic surveys are a technique used to explore and map the subsurface of the ocean floor. The area that we're looking at is the pink area on the map there. That's where the activity planning area is, and that will narrow over time, but that's the largest possible extent of our survey. The green area that you can see is where we look at the environmental receptors within this area. It's the largest extent to which we think there may be effects from our survey, and so that kind of forms our planning area. Currently, the activity is a survey duration of 90 days, of which 60 would be acquisition. And it looks, at the moment, we're looking at a 5-year window. And again, the area and the timing of that window will narrow as the process continues. So in terms of our environmental assessment, we've had a hugely busy month gathering a lot of context. And we want to share that context with you today. So we have published our full preliminary environmental impact and risk assessment, or PERA. It is a document that runs through the entirety of this risk management process in a kind of first cut, if you like, and we've communicated the outcome of those in the document. It's a report that's available on our consultation hub at www.regiamss.com.au. Within that consultation hub, you will also now find the documents for our draft decision-making criteria. So one of the first principles of environmental assessment is that we share the criteria for decision-making with the people we're consulting with, and I'll talk through those in just a moment. And the full document that explains how we've designed those criteria and ultimately what's behind those criteria, things such as the principles of ecologically sustainable development and the principles of acceptable levels of impact. They kind of underpin our criteria. And again, we've published that entire document for community and public consumption. And obviously it helps us with our consultation efforts. We have also published the 100+ legislative requirements that we've been able to identify so far. We think there are more, and there will be as we go through the assessment process. But we've identified a number of legislative and other requirements. Again, we've published all of those on the website. So if you'd like to know which pieces of legislation that we found that we need to comply with, and our assessment of how relevant they are to our activity, again, all of this has been completed and it's publicly available on our consultation hub. A couple of documents that we're a touch delayed on getting out, but will be out with you. Certainly the environmental assessment method will be published today, and the implementation strategy should be published within the next fortnight. These are two further documents that relate to this process you can see on the screen. And these documents help with the environmental assessment method, talks about the overall process, and the implementation strategy talks specifically to the monitoring review stage that you can see on the right-hand side of the screen. Also for our environmental assessment, April sees us starting work on our full impact assessments and our full risk assessments. We also have sound propagation modelling underway, and that allows us to do a much more quantitative analysis of the sound propagation from the seismic survey, which is one of our key impacts that we have to deal with. And we've commenced work on some oil spill extent and duration analysis. That mostly is to validate our environmental planning area, but it has some other functions as well, just to understand what we have to deal with in the event of an accidental release of fuel oil. So there's quite a lot underway in our environmental assessment process just at the moment. I mentioned the preliminary environmental impacts and risk assessment. What's happened within that assessment is that we've screened out negligible aspects such as marine discharges. And there's a justification for why we've done that at this stage within the PERA. Essentially what we've done is taken something that's normal for any vessel that operates out in the open ocean. This is the type of effluent and petrol waste discharges that come from shipping. And we've done a very short assessment on those that's commensurate with the nature and scale of those types of impacts. We've also managed to screen out some negligible impacts. So when we look at our aspects, the effects of underwater sound on birds, as an example, there's no cause-effect pathway that we've been able to identify for the birds in this area. And so we've been able to screen those types of impacts out. So we can now make sure that when we talk to people, we're only talking about the things that may have an effect on the environment, so any impacts above negligible, and we can talk about things where we have been able to identify a cause-effect pathway. And so all of those remaining aspects and impacts, the ones in the table you can see on the screen, they have been carried forward to the full assessment, and the assessment level has also been set. So whether it's a qualitative assessment based on professional judgment and good practice, or whether it's a quantitative assessment where we have to do a little bit more modelling work and a little bit more study because of the level of impacts that we're predicting. Here's the equivalent for environmental risks. Risks obviously different to impacts, where impacts are a change that is going to happen in the environment, whether adverse or beneficial, it is a change. A risk, on the other hand, is a function of likelihood and consequence, and is something that we actively, all of these aspects are things that we actively prevent from occurring. And as such, we're able to screen negligible aspects such as an accidental release of materials or waste overboard. And the reason we're able to do that is identified again in the PERA document in full. And it's because we know that we have to comply with certain aspects of maritime law implemented in Australia through the Protection of the Sea package of legislation. You can see in the table here the remaining aspects and risks that have been carried forward. Our preliminary assessment shows that most of those are relatively low in terms of their likelihood and consequence, but there are a couple, such as invasive marine species and the introduction of those marine pests. We need to look at those in a little bit more detail, along with collisions with marine fauna. But again, these are all things that we actively prevent, and there will be control measures and other mitigation and management things in place to prevent these things from occurring. I wanted to talk to you today about the decision-making criteria, and I've put a copy up on the slide here if you want to pause the recording for those of you that are able to watch after this webinar. These are all available in our decision-making criteria document that's published again on the Consultation Hub. The main kind of principle here is that we need to demonstrate that all of the impacts and risks, excuse me, all of the impacts and risks that we have identified from the Regia seismic survey must be of an acceptable level. And the preliminary impact assessment has identified a number of different receptors that we have to take particular care and caution with. And so those are blue whales, southern right whales, we've got southern rock lobster and the associated commercial fishing there, There's other commercial fishing as well. And then obviously, as we get closer to the coast, we have tourism and recreational users. So there are a number of receptors in the area that we've already identified as being significant, and we're working through how we're going to manage and mitigate the impacts to these receptors to an acceptable level. The acceptable levels that we've proposed that are open for public comment now. Anybody who wants to engage through the website can. And you know, things like making sure that our activity and the way that we design our activity will only result in temporary, reversible, small scale and or low intensity environmental damage. We think those are the types of criteria that we need to hit. And we need to demonstrate that to our independent regulator, NOPSEMA. I'll leave the others. If you want to drill into each of these, they are explained, as I said, in our decision-making criteria document. Changing tack ever so slightly to the consultation process. This is similar to the slide I've put up in webinar 1. Where we have our consultation process. It's 5 months long. We're now 2 months into that process. The first month was about raising awareness. This last month in March has been about establishing the context. We're really pleased to be able to say that we've engaged with a number of people and organisations now, and have a good sort of foundation to be able to commence the detailed discussions that we need to have with the local community and people that are affected. What happens next, as you can see in the consultation process, we've still got 3 months to go. We currently right now are preparing our environmental assessments, and they'll be published in draft form for people to consider by the end of the month or thereabouts. And then in May, we look at our management and mitigation measures, including control measures and other environmental performance criteria that we can put in place. And also in May, we'll publish the remainder of the environment plan document for consultation. And then finally in June, we've got a month where there's open dialogue with our relevant persons for them to be able to raise any objections or claims. And that's all to come in the next 3 months. Really pleased to say that we've had our first engagement on our Consultation Hub website and the interactive map. Just as a reminder for anyone who's not familiar, on the map you can raise concerns, you can provide information, or you can comment at specific, at all of those you can do at specific locations. You just drag and drop a marker onto the map and provide us your feedback as shown on the slide. We have noted a number of community objections to petroleum development on a more philosophical level. It's incumbent on me to explain why we're consulting on this activity, and that is that we're consulting to on how the activity goes ahead, so how we manage environmental impacts and risks. The scope of our consultation is not to debate if petroleum exploration should occur. Currently, the legislative framework in Australia does permit exploration activities to occur, and that is the right that we have to explore. And if people disagree with that, there are other avenues through elected officials or through government departments for you to raise those concerns. Our job, to be really clear again, is to consult on how the activity proceeds and the environmental management of the activity. One thing in our experience is that people can object to oil and gas as a whole, but that can also mask other substantive issues that we can do something about. And so it might be that you may object to exploration activities because you would like to protect the rock lobsters or the commercial fishing interests, or protect the southern right whales in the region. Well, protection of those types of resources and those types of receptors is absolutely what we're interested in doing. And so we'd like to talk to people about how we can do that and how we can minimise and lessen our environmental impacts. So we don't want objections to oil and gas activities sort of at a philosophical level to hide any substantive issues. So the job for us to do is to really listen to people, to engage through the website, and to be out in the community, which will come in the next 3 months. And we're really seeking to reveal those concerns beyond a blanket objection to oil and gas. So what have we done so far? So I've grayed out some of the consultation stuff we've done so far in February. In March, we've had quite an intensive program of consultation. We've, for those of you out in this kind of Warrnambool, Geelong region, Portland region, you may have heard our radio advertisements. They've gone out on 3 different radio stations across the region. We've done more radio interviews. We've had 4 weeks now of print media advertisement in a couple of different papers. We know that some of our consultation activities are working because we've seen more people arrive on our activity website, which is what we wanted. So we've got 1,200 unique visitors and something actually just clocking over 4,000 individual instances. So not only are people visiting the website, but once they visited, they're coming back for more information. We've continued to advertise on social media, so Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and trying to encourage people to interact with the website. As I mentioned earlier, we've had our first posts on the interactive map, and you can see those discussions. They're publicly available. You can see my responses and those of the team. We're not trying to hide anything here. So please do go on the interactive map and join those discussions. And we've written now to 137 organisations and 97 people. And we fully anticipate that certainly the people side of those numbers, we hope that will grow. In terms of consultation, what happens next? In talking with people so far, we have recognised that we need to continue looking for individuals who may be affected, who use this marine environment. To that end, we have started to schedule our port visits. So we're going out into the community. We'll visit the local ports. People with vessels that operate in this area will be coming out to try and talk to you. We have information sessions. The dates, venues and times I can't announce just at the moment. We're just organising those between the dates of the 17th of April and the 7th of May. But we intend on holding information sessions in Apollo Bay, Port Campbell, Peterborough, Warrnambool, Portland and Port Macdonald over that time. Also in April, we're going to continue to advertise on social media, continue writing to fishers and fishing associations. We still haven't got some responses from people that we thought we would, so we'll continue to try and engage with those folks. And the dialogue with relevant persons carries on. We're really excited to be able to share that we'll have activity representatives in the community with an activity liaison officer located in the region after Easter. We have initial meetings during that time with local councils that are starting to be set up, and we will be at large community events handing out flyers, trying to encourage people to visit the website and find relevant persons. So if you see us at those events, please obviously pop in and say hi, and we can talk to you about the activity and how to consult further with us. For now, though, we'll leave it with the Q&A. Really appreciate your time and attention. For those of you that are watching this after the event, please do jump online to www.regiamss.com.au, leave your comment or get in touch with us at contact@regiamss.com.au. We really look forward to talking to you as many as you as possible. Thanks for your time. Bye-bye.